Hi, and thanks for watching another instructional video for CSCI 1300. In this video, we will cover how to traverse a string, and we will also talk about the index of characters within a string. The first thing that we should mention in this video is that strings are an array of characters. An array being a sequence with a start position and an end position, designated with an index value for each one of those positions. So the index tells us where a particular character resides within the sequence in a string. If you look at the example that we are given here, and we're printing a greeting that says, "Hello CSCI 1300, well, this is going to have a series of index values or position values. Notice that hello takes up the positions of 0 through 4. There's a space on position 5. CSCI, in capital letters, takes up the positions 6 through 9. There's another space in position 10. And there is also 1300 takes up 11 through 14, and 15 is an exclamation point. Note that spaces are counted in the index and that they have their own container within the string. So they are counted and registered just like anything else, and so is the exclamation point. Pretty much anything that is on your keyboard can be entered as a character into a string, and in a string, any of those character values have an index. Let's jump into some code and talk about how to implement this in C++. The first thing I want to note is that I'm going to be using the string library, so I have to use include string. And say I have a greeting that has the exact same example, hello CSCI 1300. Well, let's go through how to traverse this with a for loop. For loops would be perfect for traversing strings for the following reasons. We know that there is going to be a start position and an end position. It will terminate at the end of a string. The string doesn't go on forever, so we can use a for loop very easily at that kind of a situation. We also know that we want to increment by 1 every time, so a for loop would be great. So let's set one up. I'm going to use an index value called I. I'm going to set it to 0 because we want to start at the first position of the string every time. And I'm going to have some terminating condition, which will be based on the number of characters that reside within the string. Well, we can have strings of characters that are very, very large, and it might be hard for us to determine how many characters reside within the string, but thankfully C++ has the string library, and we can use some built-in functions to do that for us or make that easier. So we know that we want to traverse the variable greeting, so I'm going to use a built-in string function called the .length function, which comes from the string library, and basically calculates all of the characters in the string for us. So it's already said, okay, whatever greeting is, we're going to figure out exactly how many characters are there, and we're going to have some number, some terminating condition, right? So we're going to use I and set it so that it never reaches the end of the length. So it will always be 1 less. So in this particular example, hello CSCI 1300 has 16 characters, and since we're starting at a position of 0, we should be going from 0 to 15, and greeting.length will be the count of 16. We're going to increment by 1 so that I does not skip any of the characters within the string, and we're going to print both the index and the character that resides at that index. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to print I and set it equal to whatever is coming back from I in the operation. So I should go from 0 all the way up to 1 less than the length, so it should go from 0 to 15. And I'm going to leave some spacing here so that I can also do a print statement for the information that resides at that value. Well, like I was saying earlier, we want to remember that strings are arrays of characters, and we can access strings at position values using our index, our I value. So I'm going to say the thing we are traversing again is greeting. And greeting is the array of characters, so I'm going to use array notation here. And what this bracket means is this is saying, like, we're going to print what is residing within the array of characters called greeting at some position. That position is going to be our I value. It's going to be wherever we traverse through. If you wanted to print individual characters directly, you could set a position value like 0 or 15 or something like that, and you could print an individual character. But since I will actually increase, we can actually use I to traverse over the entire string. And as I increases, we will actually be printing whatever is next in the sequence using that index value. And with that, I think that we should be good. We have a start position. We're using the dot length to get an end position. We're going to increment by a value of 1. We're going to print I, and we're also going to print the information, the character that is stored at that index value within our string. So let's go ahead and compile this. And you can see here that the output that we are getting, we get that I is equal to 0, and that the character that resides there is H. And I is equal to 1, we get the character of E, and so on and so forth. Notice that when I is 5 and when I is 10, nothing is printed to the screen because we have a space that is actually stored there. And the same with 15, you can see that we are generating that exclamation point. Just as a side note, if you want to use a different notation for this, there is an alternative to using the brackets. You could also use the .at function and pass in the value of I as well. So this does the exact same operation, and it is used primarily with arrays or vectors, but it actually works correctly on strings as well. So these are two ways to access characters at a certain index within a string, and you can see that we get the same information back using either the array brackets or the .at operation. That's all for now. Thanks and happy coding.